So the first issue is our spouse, right? Spousal support. Spousal support is a huge thing as well. Supporting each other in the journey is the first point I wish to talk to. In my experience, one of the most difficult things to do is to go through this kind of an ibelevenish with somebody else. And the place where you sort of can identify so directly is when it comes to decision making. Sometimes you have to make decisions. Decisions that affect you, decisions that affect your whole family, decisions that affect your whole shlichus. They're lifetime decisions, and you can't make them twice. And there's no trial and error. You make this decision, you got to stick with it. Whatever that decision is, keep a child home, don't keep a child home, move to a different city, not move to a different city. I don't need to tell you. And when there's two of you and you don't agree, it's very difficult. Because there's no gray. It's one of the most poignant moments in my life where wife and I had to make a decision and we disagreed. And the wisdom that we got from the wise people is, one of you is going to be wrong. One of you is not going to get what they want. You can't do it in a way that's going to please both of you, and you're talking about something very deep and very real and very personal and very emotionally costly. I'm not going to tell you who we listen to, but it's something which I think about often, and it's one of the most important pieces of wisdom ever. It was a situation that if I hadn't had the situation, I wouldn't have had to face it. And it's just life. Sometimes you have to make a decision, and you can only do it one way. You cannot do it both ways. And you hopefully make the right decision, and you hopefully forgive each other. Whatever it is you disagree about, hopefully you forgive each other, because this I can tell you for sure, and I believe this with my whole heart. I teach girls and boys. I teach bochrim and girls. I teach my seminary girls, and we do Q&A in seminary with the girls and Q&A with the boys. I put up Q&A online, but I never put the Q&A that I do with the girls and boys online because I want to keep my job. What happens in the classroom, I do separate Q&A to put online where I'm much more in control. But we got into a conversation with the girls, and the girls were a bit surprised. But I told them what I believe. I believe that according to Torah, in a family, the most important thing is the couple. And ultimately it comes before everything. The you and him, that's the root, that's the anchor of the family. And sometimes you have to make big sacrifices to keep that together. I equate it to the spoke of a wheel. A wheel has many, a bicycle wheel has many little spokes, many sticks. And at the center there's an axle. And the axle has to be fixed, it can't be shaking. The axle of every home is the husband and the wife, is the unit. And sometimes there are situations that are incredibly emotional, and you have disagreements, and the disagreements can be, about things as petty as you feel like the other person isn't carrying their share of the load, for example. And I believe, that Torah believes, that the center of every home is him and the her, is the Mr. and the Mrs., is the couple. Because the greatest thing we give our children, is our love to our spouse, is our union with our other. Because that's their security, their safety, the space in which they grow up, that makes them not be afraid of life, that makes them look at the world through positive eyes rather than through negative eyes, is our home. And our home is me and my husband, or me and my wife. And in general, couples live together, and over time, you accept each other. You look away at certain things, you don't look away at certain other things. And when you have moments like these, we have these kind of challenges, everything is heightened, everything is harder, and everything is much more serious. And you have to, I think you have to put your husband first. I told this to the seminary girls, and the girls got really upset. And the girls gave me a hard time. The Bachram would not have thought twice about it. And I was actually...
What did you tell the Bachram that they have to put their wife first?
trust me, if all the Bachim heard what I said to the Bachim, you'd be happy. But but I talk to a certain kind of Bachar. I teach in a yeshiva called Achei Temimim. It's a different kind of yeshiva. We have different kind of conversations that you're allowed to have in a Chassidish Bachar yeshiva. I was actually very impressed with the wisdom of the girls. They talked about situations. I was very surprised that single girls raised the kinds of questions that normally people raise from the experiences of living. Like, what do you mean? How my husband and my kids. It's a very, very difficult deal, and every rule has exceptions. I mean, this rule particularly has exceptions, but this is my understanding. This is my experience for sure. It's my understanding that the best thing we can do for everybody involved, including our situation, is not drift apart. Because you know very well, and this you read in all the psychology books, that nisyonos, estranged couples, challenges of life causes couples to drift apart, even if they don't mean to. It's just you're busy. And it's a big mistake. It's a big mistake because this is the anchor. It's the anchor of our children, it's the anchor of our home, it's the anchor of our tzaddas, and really ultimately it's our anchor. And I know guys pretty well because I'm a guy. I'm not a woman. And men and women are very different. And you have to know how to dial a man's number to get him to pick up the phone, It's a trick. You have to know how to do it. But you have to figure it out. A woman told me a story. I'm sorry for doing this, but there's nothing trivial about this. A lady comes to my classes. She's a smart girl. She tells me a story. She lost her wallet. Ever lose your wallet and call up your husband? Yeah. So she says, I lost my wallet and all my credit cards, and don't ask. So I didn't call up my husband, I lost my wallet, because it was going to happen. I called him up. I said, I'm so ashamed of myself. I'm embarrassed to tell you what happened. What happened? I can't tell you. None of them what happened. Anyway, he was so helpful. Because she knew how to dial his number. If you tell your husband you lost your wallet, you get a lecture. You tell your husband, I'm ashamed and I'm embarrassed, I need help. Mitamuli, he wants to help you. I said to her, where'd you learn that? Where'd you learn that trick? But this is the game. You know this. You're all married to men. You know the game. If at all possible, I agree with this. To go through life in general. A couple you get married and you get closer and closer over time because of these ibn. Don't forget that. Don't say I'm busy. Don't be a martyr. I think that's one of the things. Don't say I'm busy. This is the foundation of how we deal with life and with challenges. And in the end, I think, unless you're really married a lemon, and they're not, guys are guys, but not all of them are lemons. Some of them are useful in many ways. And we have to put that, we have to remember that value, because in the end, it's right. In the end, we see in hindsight, you want to do things as a couple. You want to lean on one another. You have bad days. He has bad days. You want to work it through together. And I agree. I agree that it's an ikir. It's something that has to be, in general in life, and especially when you have difficulties, to do it together. And you have to make him get involved. You know this. You have to make him get involved. You have to make him pick up the phone. And with love, not with anger, with love. And if you can do that to any degree of success, I think it'll be a lot easier on you. Even if all he gives you is emotional support, and I'm sure he does much more than that, I think it's very, very important. Number 2, how do you speak to the guilt inside of you with your busy life, other children, that you aren't doing enough? It stems from the Yetzer Hara, but wonder if you're giving enough. When the Eibishter gives us tests, it's not our fault. You know that? When the Eibishter gives a test, we didn't do it. He did it. B'chlal life, he did. We're players in his world. He's the boss. He does what he wants. And we respond, we react, we engage in the life that he gave us. And as much as we think, when we're young and getting married, we think we're in charge. Wow, we think we're in charge, right? But we learn quite quickly that we're in charge of nothing except our own imagination. And the imagination flutters away with that terrible disease called reality. We're not in charge. The Eibush is in charge. And we're never allowed to forget that we didn't do this. We didn't do this. He did it. We're trying our best. We're dealing with it. He did this. Whoever wrote this question, you know the answer to this question. The answer is do your best. But obviously, doing your best doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel adequate. It doesn't feel right. I taught Tanya to boys for many years. I'm not going to help you with this, but I'm just going to talk a little more on. I taught boys Tanya for many, many years. And in chapter 31, Perek Lamadav, there's a few quotable quotes. It actually says this word in the Tanya. Ani loy asisi es atzmi. Direct quote. Ani loy asisi es atzmi. I did not create myself. I think once in a while we need to tell ourselves that Ani loy asisi es atzmi. We didn't create this. We deal with it. We deal with it to the best of our limited ability. And that's all the Eibush expects. It's all the Eibush that expects. I reached a point in my life where, let me say this, okay? We many, many years ago, we lost a child, okay? And since then, our life has been a bowl of roses. We've never had another problem. All of our kids are angels. They're socially adept. They get perfect marks in school. They're so easy to marry off. Right? No! What can I tell you? We're all living in the same world. We're all going through, a man quoted me on Friday, and I was so happy to hear it. A doctor in this neighborhood says to me, Rabbi, I often quote what you said. I said, what did I say? He said, you said, I have a lot of problems, but every one of my problems is from a bracha. If I didn't have any kids, I wouldn't have any problems. Probably. Except I'd be boring and lonely and angry and prematurely old, which I'm anyway that. So I take them. That's how it is. This is what we got. Every once in a while, we should tell ourselves, I didn't do this. I'm dealing with this. Ich hab das nicht beschaffen, der Eibishter hat. In his infinite wisdom, we all appreciate that the Eibishter is smarter than us and knows better. We didn't do this. We try our best. That's all we can do, is try our best. And so what I wanted to say is, it sounds so obvious, but for me it wasn't so obvious. You live life and you have one challenge and a second challenge and a third challenge and a fourth challenge. And the way I say it as a man is, and I guess on some level it's true of women also because it's an American thing, not just a man thing, is you want to be in charge, In America there's 10 commandments. I have a copy of it at home, by the way. If you want, I can send it to you. The first of the 10 commandments is, I am God, my God. There shall be no God to me other than myself. Those are the first two didnts. I'm in charge. I make my life. I make it all happen. I choose. I plan. And exactly what I choose and exactly what I plan is exactly how it plays out. Right? So when you start your life, when I got married, I was full of confidence. Why? I'm in charge. You're not even in charge of your wife. You're not in charge. You're not in charge of anything, but that's what you think. You're a little kid. And then life comes. And you realize more and more and more that you don't have to, first of all, you're not in charge. And you don't need to be in charge. And then you learn another form of being in charge. It's altogether another type of being in charge, which is acceptance. One of the hardest things in the world is to accept. And you know the hardest person to accept? Yourself. Forget about your husband, and he's a nudnik. Yourself. You look in the mirror, and what do you see? I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this. The Eibishter does beschaffen. He's a smart guy. And the Eibishter created this. Ani lo yasisi es atzmi. I didn't make this. And life doesn't give you a choice. Life doesn't give you a choice. You resist. You want to stay in charge. You want to stay, and as long as you stay in charge, you're wound up like a top that's about to spin. There's so much stress, there's so much tension. And when you start to realize, all I got to do is accept. My kids aren't perfect. My kids aren't what I want them to be. My Shabbos table does not look the way I envisage it to look, the way it used to be with my older children who are now married and out of the house. That's just the way it goes. I'm not bad. I'm not negligent. I'm doing my best. This is the reality of the situation. And is it easy to accept? It's very hard to accept. That's why the question is being asked. I suffer guilt. I feel like I'm not doing anything well because I'm spread so thin. Can't do my shlichus properly. Can't look at my other children properly. Can't look at my husband properly. Can't look at the child that I'm preoccupied with. I can't take care of myself properly. It's a bunch of I can't. And then it's all true. And the truth is, the real truth is, it is about acceptance. And first of all, it's pashut acceptance of our limitations. If my limitations don't allow me to do this better, it's not expected of me. Hashem gave me this situation. Hashem gave me this child. Hashem gave me this husband. Hashem gave me these children. Hashem gave me this shlichus. What I'm doing is exactly how it's supposed to be. And it's not easy to accept. It's not. But it's literally mamish in the last few years that this idea, I'm almost 60. I think I'm older than most of the people in this room. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have my glasses off. And I believe I'm older than most of the people in this room. It's been only recently that it's become so clear to me that if you let, they say in the 12th step, let go and let God. And it's really, I don't have to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. I have to do what I need to do. I don't even have to worry about it. But that's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. But it's a piece of wisdom that we all need to put into our brains and let it percolate down from our mind into our lives, that all I can do is my best. All I can do is my best, and that's good enough. Because it's all the Eibishter expects of me, it's all the Rebbe expects of me, and it's really all I should expect of myself. And the Eibishter has to do the rest. Hashem has to do the rest. Now the questions go from heart to heart, you understand? Questions. Tips for our other children not to be resentful of the attention and havoc needed for and because of their sibling. I mean, this is, if it's hard enough to include your husband in this paradigm, how do you include the kids? Again, if anybody thinks they came here for answers, you got the wrong guy. And maybe if I don't give answers, that makes me the right guy, because anybody who knows what to do doesn't know what he's talking about. It's so personal and so complicated and so day by day. It's life. This is not a maimer, this is life. So I just want to tell you this. I know people who are struggling with children with special needs. I know more than one or two. And I know different types. I know people who are destroyed by it, absolutely destroyed. They walk around crying. You look on their faces, they're absolutely destroyed by it. And then you see other couples who have figured out how to include their child in their home with their child's limitations in a way that child becomes a source of a lot of the cheer in that home. There's different kinds of special needs children, and everybody's situation is different. Some of them are angry, and some of them are frustrated, and some of them are destructive. But often they're just simple. Now, I don't know your situation, and I can't generalize, but some people figure out how to include the child in the house, and the child becomes the center of laughter, the center of love, and it becomes, if I may use these words, a win-win. You figure out how to make it into something positive. The only piece of advice I have that's practical to this question is include the other children with this child. As hard as it is, you explain to them what's going on. Tell them the truth. And they ask, what am I allowed to tell my friends in school? Don't ask me, because I'm very open-minded about these things. I think if my kids are not going to get married, they're going to get married with whether people do or don't know the situation in my home. I'm too American in this way. We're all rigid, uptight Russians, so everything is a secret. Everything is the KGB's coming after me. I don't think it's so terrible if people know what's going on. I'd rather know the truth than make up lies, which is what people do when you don't tell them. But to whatever extent it's possible, to include the other children. And of course, the trick is not to include the other children as a task. It's not a job, A job is setting the table. If it's possible, and to the extent that it's possible, to make it into something positive, we help this child because he or she is my brother and my sister, because this is what we have to do. And we find language and we find circumstance to get the other kids involved in a way that they don't see it as a chore, as a mesiras nefesh, but as something that's meaningful, something that they wish to do. A lot of it is our attitude, really. A lot of it is how we approach it, how we feel. If we walk around with a lot of negativity, that's how they see it. If we figure out in our own minds, in our own hearts, how to accept the situation and to deal with it as it is, in other words, not expecting magic, maybe we can communicate that to our other children and get them to feel like they want to be a part of it. I think it's the only way to do this. It's the only way to do shlichus, frankly. And I think it's the only way to deal with this. I have seen situations, including situations very close to myself, where kids give and give and give, and then later they resent. They come back and they have tinnitus. There is no perfect formula, but I think it's very, very difficult to try to have two realities: the reality of the child that's not well, and the reality of your remaining children. And it's a goal. It's a goal. A goal means that it takes time. I have a neighbor whose sibling passed away, which was probably 65. And I went to be Menachem Avel. So this is a long story that goes back close to 80 years. This child was a special needs child in an age where there were no services and there was no homes for them. And this person would come into the homes of their siblings and just bring laughter. And it was this way because that's how the parents approached it. And when that person died, after living what we would call a very compromised life, a life of they never got married, they never had a job, they would never take care of themselves, their siblings missed them because they brought something very positive into their world. But that didn't happen by itself. It only happened because the parents spun it that way. The parents sort of said, this is part of who we are, this is what we are. And we're going to make this work, and we're going to make this into a positive and a happy thing. And oftentimes that special needs child can become the center of a lot of celebration, a lot of happiness, and an issue which I think is big for all of us as we raise our kids and our kids move away is cohesion, right? I don't know you, I don't know any of you, and I don't know what kind of relationships you have with your siblings, how close you are as a family, right? But you wish and you hope that your children are going to grow up and get married and be very close to one another. And maybe you say, well, as close as I am to my siblings, or closer than I am to my siblings, whatever your scenario is. This could be glue. This could be glue if we figure out how to manage it correctly. I'm not saying this is easy. And the most important thing that we need to learn and understand is not because you decide to do something is it done. It's a process. I remember when we discovered that my son was ill. I'm a man. So in 5 minutes I had all the solutions. I figured it out, what we're going to do. It was beyond stupid. Because, so we can do this. So at this stage, there was a prognosis, how this kid's illness is going to progress. I had it all figured out. What did I not include? Well, number one, just the exhaustion of taking care of him. Number two, in other words, not doing it, but the emotion that comes with it. Number two, the other children. Right? Number three, the pain. So you live this. You live this one day at a time. And it becomes part of your new normal. And it becomes part of normal. You learn how to live this. You learn how to live this. And you can learn how to live this in a way that it doesn't have to be a tragedy. And it's on us. It's on the parents to develop that thinking in themselves and to communicate that thinking to the children. I tell people a lot. This is a bit of an aside, but it's not much of an aside. I tell people a lot that when you watch somebody else suffer, your feeling is their life is dark, life is terrible, that all they do is suffer. What you don't know is that person gets up in the morning, and by the time they get up in the morning, till they go to sleep at night, there's, let's say, 18 hours or 17 hours or 16 hours of awake time, and they do hundreds of things, and they're not all sad. Many of them are happy. When our child was ill, and child was in the hospital for the last couple of years of his life, and we would visit every day, we took our children, it wasn't all sad. When somebody, I could imagine how my siblings looked at it. Oh, what a rachmanis. Yeah, it's a rachmanis. But it's not all bad. It's life. It was our life for those 4 years. And that didn't happen in a minute. I literally remember the day we were given the prognosis. And I remember how I figured it out in 5 minutes. And obviously I realized how foolish I was. But part of the moving forward was just living with this. This is our life. And if you figure out how to do that, you can even make it into something positive. And then the other children don't feel like they're nebuchs. They're not nebuchs. They're really not nebuchs. In the end, these things teach lessons that are incredibly important and incredibly real. And as parents who are parenting children, that's part of our obligation to figure out how to communicate that to our healthy children. That we're going to live this one day at a time, we're going to make it work. It's not either you or him or you or her, it's all of us. And it's different than it was before. But it's life, and there's a lot of happy moments. And it's something that we need to figure out to do for ourselves, and then to be able to communicate to our children. I'm sorry that I could just feel many of you wanting to throw things at me. I'm saved by the clock at 14 minutes to get through this list. Now, Rabbi say, ladies, the next question I was given 5 times. And I got to tell you, my heart is pushed melting from the emes of you, the Chassidishkeit of you. Personal question, how to know family is ready to grow. How to get through a following pregnancy in good headspace. How to know when the family is ready to add another, being realistic about everyone's needs, parents, shalom bayis, children, children, medical needs. And also keeping in mind wanting to have large family and beracha that another child brings. Then I'm just reading all the words. The pregnancy following the birth of a special needs child. Okay, and then the 8 I should have put before, how to help other siblings feel empowered, loved, not burdened by sibling. So I got this how many times? 4 times. 5 times. Wow. Ask the Rebbe. We know that that's the answer. Only the Rebbe knows. Unfortunately, the problem is you ask the Rebbe and you don't know what the Rebbe is saying. But first of all, you got to ask, people. You got to ask. You have to go to the Rebbe and you have to say, okay, when? We all think about the Rebbe every day. And one of the things that we think about the Rebbe, or that we should think about the Rebbe is a holy man, you know that? He's a very, very, very big tzaddik. He lives in a world which is just God's. It's just God's. I recently had an exchange with a woman, and I think I hurt her feelings. I didn't mean to, but she sort of stopped the conversation abruptly. I did something on my Q&A about psychological help, mental health. And she was happy with what I said. So she reached out to me and she had a conversation with me. And the last exchange was, why didn't the Rebbe talk about it more? Why did the Rebbe encourage more people to seek mental health support? So I answered her. This is after a series of exchanges, and maybe I shouldn't have said it. I don't know. I don't know what's right. Because it's not his job. You don't need a Rebbe not to get pregnant. For that you need a Rov. You need a Rebbe to yes get pregnant. Which I believe is the reason when people would ask such questions to the Rebbe, if the Rebbe wanted you to have Mesiras Nefesh, he told you himself. If the Rebbe wants you to do the irrational thing, he told you to do it. That's his job. And if the Rebbe agreed that you got to be more realistic, he would send you to a Rav. And the Rav almost knew, the Rebbe knew he could answer the question himself. Why did he send to me? Now, being a Rav is not a fun job, b'chlal. And being a Rav who has to answer Kvayochel on behalf of the Rebbe is extraordinarily difficult. And the Rabbanim would ask the Rebbe, what am I supposed to say? Only a Rebbe can answer such a question. Only a Rebbe can answer such a question. But let's philosophize, okay? Let's pat ourselves on the back. Let's entertain ourselves, okay? We want to have more children. That alone is such a bracha. That we live in the America in which we live, and we in our heads want to have more kids. That's holy. That's really, really wonderful. It's not just having a child as a sacrifice. No, it's not. Having a child is the most wonderful thing in the world. It's an opportunity to love unconditionally and to give and to create and to make a dinner le'yizbarach b'tachtonim. But the fact that we want that says so much about our Chassidus. It does. It says an enormous amount about our spiritual space. And it's good. Even if the practical answer is no. The desire is so beautiful. The desire is so special. Really, it is. Because it really is the ultimate Chassidishkeit. I teach kids, teenagers, and they look at the whole religion as slavery. I can't do this, I can't do everything I can't do, everything I can't do, everything I can't do. And of course, my job as their teacher is not to give them more instructions. You know what? Not only you can't do this, you can't even do this. You didn't know that, right? That's my job to teach you. For better or for worse, I'm a mashpia. I don't teach halacha. My job is to get them to appreciate that this is actually wonderful. This is the best thing that we have. And if you're shluchos and you live in the real world, it's never been truer than right now. The world is spitting out. It's coming so crazy. And Yiddishkeit is such an incredible anchor. And one of the most profound aspects of that anchor is that the deepest bracha is a child. The deepest bracha is a child. We're not burdening society. We're bringing a blessing into the world. We're not burdening our other children. We're bringing a blessing into the world. And sometimes the Eibusha puts up in a position where we have to ask that question, really. I think the question alone speaks volumes, really. I was asked 5 different women asked that question, and I have to tell you that, like I said, I'm assuming I'm older than most of you. It's wonderful that you have the question. Only the Rebbe can answer that question. I'm going to say one thought, and you'll take it any way you wish. It's just an insight. I think the answer to the question is, you should have the next child a little bit before you're ready. So what does that mean? Am I a little bit ready? So how do I know? It's a very subjective thing. It really is. But don't wait till you're completely ready, because you'll end up waiting your whole life. And to be honest, again, I don't know you. I hope you can talk to your husband about these things frankly, and you can make these decisions together. If you need to get a mashpia involved, you get a mashpia involved. But if you could work it through as a couple, you're never ready. In the best situation, you're never ready. We have Baruch Hashem a lot to do. That's my thought. In other words, don't wait till you're completely comfortable, but don't do it in a way that is in your judgment and the judgment of your Rav and the judgment of your husband, the judgment of your mashpia. Reckless, not thought through. But I have to say that having that question means, says Beseder. It's good. It's good in my opinion. It's good. Now I got a very long question. I got 6 minutes.
I think I asked that question about bitachon.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually, when you were speaking, the question actually solidified in my mind. The question is, does the simcha come from emunah, that we know that our children are perfect the way they are? Or does the simcha need to come from bitachon on the level that the Rebbe spoke about in the Sicha, what Shal Mordechai did.
Right.
That he believed that the Eibishter Alein is going to save me because nobody else will come to save me, and that's how he got his Yeshua. Meaning, I know we're supposed to be joyful that we have special needs children, but to me, the level that you would need to believe that your child is going to outgrow their special needs, which doesn't happen frequently or ever in this world, is that something the Rebbe wants from us, or does the Rebbe want us to have simcha from Emunah that my child is perfect the way they are?
Okay, you know what the Rebbe wants from us? The best we can deliver.
No, that's not answering my question.
It is. And I'm going to talk to you. I'm not going to beat around the bush. You think the Rebbe doesn't know how flawed we are? How limited we are? He knows quite well. He's a smart guy, the Rebbe. And he's so smart that he can come down to our level, and he has us figured out. No Rebbe spoke about B'tachon like our Rebbe did. And he's speaking to the most wounded generation in history. I find it odd. The Rebbe who's dealing with Yidden who have the hardest time with liking themselves are being taught something which is so over the top. Now, the reason the Rebbe is doing it is because he believes that smaller neshamas have an easier time to reach the Yechidah, which is really what it is. Smaller neshamas have an easier time relating to Hashem in a way which is completely beyond themselves, which is what B'tachon, like Shalom Mordechai did, is. I want to tell you something. Now, maybe you're not going to like what I'm saying. Maybe you don't need to hear it. But this is my mantra. This is what I say. I find that one of the many diseases of our generation is that people have b'tachon and no emunah.
Can you say that?
That people have b'tachon and no emunah. And there's something profoundly unhealthy about that and unsustainable about that. You know, we all had bubbas, or maybe you didn't have a bubba, but your bubba had a bubba. I don't know you. Who were simple people who never went to school. They knew how to cook pucha. They never learned anything. But they had such a emunah in the Eibishter. And they gave you their emunah in their tilim, they gave you their emunah in their hug, they gave you their emunah and the candies they gave when you came to the house. It was something so simple. And with no expectation, just was, God exists. We're all really smart, you know that? The world we live in is more informed than ever in history. Ever. It's not even close. And we're so unbelievably stupid. It's not even close. Because we don't know what to do with this information. We don't know how to process, what to take, what not to take, how to use it. And one of the things that I think is true, that everything becomes an exercise. Everything is therapy. B'tachon is a therapy. Tirach gut, v'zayin gut is a therapy. It's not. It's religion. And you know the difference? Religion is something you do every minute of every day and every night. It's not an action and a reaction. So I'll do this and he'll do that. That's not the relation with David. The foundation of a person's life and of a Jew's life is God is present, period. I didn't say good, I didn't say bad, I said present. We live in a universe full of His presence rather than void of His presence. A Yid went into the Rebbe with a terminal heart condition, and he knew that he was on a clock, but he didn't know exactly when the clock was going to run out. And he said to the Rebbe in Yiddish something to the effect, I feel like I'm on glass, I feel like walking on glass. And the Rebbe said to him, Du liegst bei dem Eibishten in der Hand. You're in a divine embrace. The Rebbe didn't give him more years. He didn't. He gave him a perspective. We live in Hashem's world. Emunah means we're surrounded by Hashem always. It doesn't make him good, doesn't make him bad, it means He's with us. And it's foundational to have that sense. As we get smarter, it's the same, it's the God, I am my God, there shall be no God unto me. It's the same syndrome. If I have a relationship with Hashem, I choose it. Wrong. I have a relationship with Hashem because I live in His space. He's real. I'm the invader. I'm not in charge, he is. And spiritually and psychologically, that means that before we make deals with God, before we negotiate terms, we just live in his world. That is supposed to give us all warmth. It's supposed to give us all a certain measure of safety. This is how Jews have lived for thousands of years. We live in Hashem's world. You know, the Rebbe told my aunt, Miriam Neville, Aleh HaSholem, Kol ma da'ovad rachmon l'tav ovid. The Rebbe didn't tell her life is wonderful. The Eibush knows what he's doing. You're in the Eibish's world. You know what she told the Rebbe? She's passed away. I hope I'm not going to be accused of that. She told me the story. She said the words came out of her mouth before she could stop them. She would never have said it to the Rebbe. Because she couldn't control it. It was a knee-jerk reaction. You have to know her to understand her. Wer sagt? Wer sagt? And the Rebbe gave him one of those smiles that goes back to Atzmas Nemusin Sav Baruch Hu. Who said? Who said? How do you know? But it was not thought through. It wasn't an intellectual question. It was a pain question. And the Rebbe gave him one of those smiles that lights up the world. Ich sag. That's my opinion. Ich sag. We live in Hashem's world, and the context of betachon is emunah. When I teach the kids, I tell them emunah is breathing air. Betachon is eating food. Betachon is a choice, you know? Betachon is a choice. You can choose to trach good v'zayin good. You can choose to makabel yisunim b'yava. You can choose to daven and give tzedakah. And you can choose to be miserable. It's also a choice. I hate to say it's a bad one, but it's a choice. Betachon is a choice. I choose to engage with God in this way. But first I have a relationship. That is key. If you have no emunah, then you don't have betachon. You have Jewish superstition. It's another version. Hashem has to be simple. This is what our parents gave us. And if we're Baalei Tshuva and our parents didn't give it to us, we need to develop it for ourselves. The hardest thing for Baalei Tshuva is these things. Because they're unspoken. It's not in a book. It's the mother's milk. I live in Hashem's world. Hashem's pretty good. And there's no other one, by the way. We can't trade him in fatzveta. There's no other God. I'm not answering your question. I'm just offering you this insight. If you put betachon in the framework of emunah, you're healthier, and your betachon is healthier. The answer to your question is it's your choice. It's your choice. The Rebbe says it, and the Rebbe says it is true. And more than it's true means he's giving a koyach. You think it's easy to do what Shalom Aleichem did?
No.
It's hell.
That's my point. Like, how could
So it was his choice. He's a tough guy. You have no idea how tough he is.
Yes.
But you know how much emunah he has in his kishkis?
Yeah.
There's this enormous amount of emunah in his
Not just
kishkis.
that, Shalom Mordechai's nace was something that Teva has done before. People have gotten free from jail. His case happened to be extreme, but nobody in the room's illnesses have ever been cured in a natural way.
So the answer to your question is, you decide how you want to approach it. You have a choice. But you don't have a choice to feel abandoned by God.
No, that's for sure. The question is on the joy. You're happy either way. Of course you're happy. You know your kid's perfect. Come on. Out of all of my kids, there's only one I don't have to worry about to grow up from, get married. She's good the way she is. She doesn't eat now. She could not eat in 30 years. It doesn't make a difference. But where does the joy come from? Does the joy come from the Eibishter made her perfect and now, I mean, I'm going to help her, but listen, I'm scot-free. I need to worry about my other kids. This one I don't need to worry about. Or does the joy come from, no, you have a mission to believe that the Eibishter is going to make it revealed good in a revealed way. Like
I'm going to tell you, first of all, the joy has to come from living.
Yes.
The joy has to come from life.
Yes.
Not from a particular version of it. You're not happy because Eibush did this for you or that. I think you're happy because it's Eibush's world.
In the Sikha, the Rebbe clearly says that the simcha comes because you know you've done everything in your power, but bitachon means that it's going to be revealed good in this world.
Right.
So are you looking at a child who's disabled as they're already revealed good? Because like Mr. Shmutkin said that the way they are now is perfect and you could have just enjoyed. They have it right, they don't have it right. Or are you looking at it that no, in this world they have a disability, and And in order to bring out something that really is positive in this world, you need to change your perspective.
I'm telling you the answer again. It's your choice.
Taking me along. Okay, good. I chose to choose.
It's your choice. Choose carefully. Okay, we got to stop. I have more to talk about, but let's stop. Okay. Thank you for listening to me. I hope I didn't disappoint you. Please visit InsideChassidus.org.